Hi everyone. I'm hoping this video reaches you in good, safe health, that you're doing fine, as a person, you're doing fine as a Prosci practitioner. I know this video's been some time coming, but well, what do you know? What is this video about? We were thinking about the fact that we send you a lot of goodness in terms of this big bulky package that you get. Uh, my version is a little messy, sorry. But you get this big bulky package, and this bulky package has from our side everything that we can visualize you as needing in your change journey, your journey as a change practitioner, right? Some of you came into this journey with Prosci being an initial step. For some of you, Prosci was one of very many steps, right? You've been in this journey for some time. And our intent was to give you the kind of material that will stick with you, that you can go back to at different times in your career, right? Meaning not just now, but even later, when you're deeper in the change management game, when you're more curious on, but why are we doing it this way? Where did this come from? What is the rationale behind this? We try and answer very many of those questions, as also have this package be your go-to content for just getting change done, just for execution, right? And so an unboxing video. It's a box unboxing video. What does this box have? Well, as I open it, to start with, I have this brochure, this page, this pamphlet, which has the kind of stuff that we do as MARG. It has MARG's different solutions, and it has this lovely notepad. If you're the notepad kind of person, I love it. I love the way it's structured to capture to-dos and ideas and actions separately, because God knows my brain goes a zillion directions during every meeting. So this is on MARG, and then it's all Prosci over here. Let me see. The first thing that caught my eye is the pen stand. The pen stand is a lovely pen stand. It's lovely wood, and it has within it not quite a stress ball. We had this checked. We had this tested by a training manager. Um, not for what would injure me the most or least, but more on what would be the most useful to have in your hands as you go through various sessions, right? For the kinesthetic in you, if you like. It also has the bookmark. We're very subtle about the fact that we got ADKAR mentioned in a zillion different places, right? The pen stand says ADKAR, this says ADKAR. Different points, we just don't want you to forget that this is the individual model of change, and this is possibly the easiest thing for you to get started practicing. Very many people come back and say, Krish, I've not yet got the project in which I can practice this. Where do I go from here? And my answer is the same thing. Start with ADKAR. Start with something that you can practice in your life with people around you, no matter whether it's in your business context or otherwise. That's all you need to start with. And besides this, what else do you have? You have the pen stand, you have Post-it, ADKAR, and then you have the highlighter and a pen. Right? So it's a fully equipped, full-featured pen stand. Use it. I find the fact that this rests on my table, and invariably, whether people notice anything else or not, even if they don't notice a big certificate on my table, this they definitely pick up. They love this stuff. What else do we have? Now we come to the books. Definitely, this is meant for people who like reading, but different kinds of readers. Let's start with the smallest of the books, right? The pictorial guide. I'm not sure how visible it is, but the pictorial guide. This is A5 size, if you like, and it's got a visual aid memoir for the whole 3 days. It's got the key concepts that we picked up, the three stories that we picked up, the three narratives, that key narratives that we picked up, with a brief description of what it was about. If you carry nothing else in your bag, this is an excellent item to carry. Most practitioners I know carry on, stay with using this for at least 6-8 months from their session. It's a good way to go back just before that key made into, and someone is going to say, what is a PCD? Damn, what's a PCD? The book probably has it. The other small book, lovely book. This is for a different kind of reader. This is for the kind of reader who is curious, in a, but not in a, I want to read a document perspective, but more from a Q&A perspective. I'd like a document, I'd like a book that reads to me as answering my questions. For that kind of a reader, this book is brilliant. It's what's it for? This book talks to an employee, no matter what level of the pyramid you are in, and asks, what are you likely to go through? What questions are you likely to have? What are you likely to go through as you go through change? So it gives you a little bit of, as an employee, gives you a little behind the scenes of this is all good stuff that's going to happen. And these are some of the questions that can be in your head. And here are some very direct, plain answers to them. It answers questions along the lines of, um, what if I disagree with the change? What if they've tried it before and failed? What if I'm forced to do more for the same pay? Like very simple, straight questions that an employee could have, and it has direct answers for it. What would you, as a practitioner, use this for? A, it's it's a good way for you to think about what you would like your managers and supervisors and leaders to be prepared for as they go through change, to be prepared for in terms of answering employee questions. So that's one point of view. The other point of view is, of course, to empathize with the employee and find out what they're likely to be having in their minds as questions, even if they don't have the forum, context, or cultural construct in which they can ask those questions. So, damn good book to read. Then comes the two books that define much of what you went through those 3 days, right? Um, this book is what the 3 day program is all about. And if you did nothing else, just read the first chapter. Why change management? It takes you through the five tenets basis which this whole program exists, the whole methodology exists. And if you did nothing else and just went through those, what I think it's 6, 7 pages, you do yourself a great favor. It'll give you a lot more grounding on why do we do this stuff. And guess what? The difference between being a doer, a practitioner, and just doing it, and being someone who knows when to do what to achieve the next level of expertise, where you're just not effective and efficient, but you're something beyond that, where you have expertise in that zone. You need to get a little bit into the why. You need to know a little bit about why does the car do what it does. You need to pop the hood at some point. Book helps. Chapter 2 then gives on to change concepts, and then the whole 9 yards. But this is your book to go back to in case you're in doubt on what was the 3 days about. And the Atka book, of course, right? Uh, it's Atka. You got to read this book. It's a fun read. Why am I saying it's a fun read? It's very conversational. It's very experience based. It takes you through stories. It takes you through cases. Um, there are some cases there's some things which are just anecdotes, and then there are cases that span the whole book, right? You'd enjoy reading this book, and it has those gems that we discussed in the session, right? Stuff like uh, page 45. Page 45 had the factors that influence success for different elements of outcome. 46 and 47, again, great pages, right? If 46 talks, this is familiar, right? Which plans address which elements of ADKAR. This which roles address which elements of ADKAR. Right? These two facing pages, great place to start with if you like, and then we can go backwards and forwards. Each chapter has again beautiful FAQs, again very straightforward questions. Um, my sponsor does not believe he or she needs to have an active and visible role in the change process. Can we build awareness without the sponsor's awareness? Is it necessary to create a burning platform in order to create awareness of the need of change? Straight stuff. Then, of course, comes the workbook. The workbook is, as you saw the PDF version, right? I like this workbook. I like using this workbook. It keeps me honest. It keeps me honest. It makes me think about what steps am I skipping? What was that step meant for? It keeps me going back to how would I do this? Um, I'm also, I like the feel of paper. So if the PDF version worked for you, great. If not, this really works. And of course, the best practice book. Um, I love the best practice book. I've told you guys that before. Let's start with something that really interests me. If you have the book in your hands, go to page 348. Appendix C, list of certification programs participants attended. For me, this was the cool stuff to start with, right? Yeah, I'm the kind of geek who goes to the appendix. It talks about all the programs that people who have responded to the survey have attended. So this is not Prosci asking Prosci participants, what do you think we should do in change? This is us asking everyone who works in change management, what actually works in change and what doesn't, and then distilling it to something that we can use as a toolkit, what we call elegant simplicity, right? We took all that research and brought it in, but the research is how we are practicing change on the field. It's best practices. It's from practitioners. In terms of content, it's beautiful. Different sections have different content. The sections themselves, right? Um, Part one, Insight Strengths, Organizational Change Capability. Chapter three, starting page 39. That's where you want to go to figure out what does it look like when a whole organization is looking at this as a capability, and how the whole organization works around it. How do we get it started? Who gets it started? Which function gets it started? That's the whole storyline. Part two, change management application, motivation and justification, effectiveness measurement, methodology. So that's your whole SUP story, right? Measurement story. The motivation and justification talks about phase zero, getting a buy-in, getting a seat at the table, right? How do you help people understand what does change management do? How do you help them understand why we need change management? All that is sitting there. Methodology, chapter 7, CM budget and resources and team structure. It's chock full of data. Um, I think in the session also, very often we get a lot of questions on that, right? It has, I'm on page 121 here. Percentage of project budget dedicated to change management. The question pops up often. Is there a percentage of the project budget I can lay claim to? Look it up in the best practices, right? Estimating the change management budget, average budget for change management, a lot of good stuff here. And then we go on to chapter 8, change management activities, 145. Page 145 is a page you definitely want to spend some time over. 145 gives you a 9 grid model, very much like your sponsor model that we did in the session. This 9 grid model talks about the kind of stuff that we do, you and I do as practitioners on the field. It's the closest I've seen to a WBS and the Prosci content, and it gives you a good sense of what all we would do at different stages of a project. So again, if you want to deep dive and someone says, so what do you do in change management? Look it up. There's a lot of detail over there. Uh, Part three is something we spend a lot of time in the session on, roles in change management, sponsorship, managers, and supervisors. And it also goes to change agent networks, consultants, and complementary roles like HR, like internal comms, and so on and so forth, right? Different other functions that would play a complementary role during the project. Part four, adapting and aligning change management, good stuff, gold here. To start with, we talk about culture, and culture is both from a regional perspective, or not just from a national stereotype, but regional perspective. And it also looks at it from the perspective of the domains that we work with. And in each of those cases, asking what are the adaptations you would bring into the game if you're working, say, in a manufacturing company in the Middle East? What would you do different, right? So customizing change management by industry, aligning CM with specific approaches. You're doing lean, you're doing Six Sigma, you're doing agile, you're doing a whole host of other stuff. How do you align? How do you bring them together? Because you're not going to do this to employees, right? After all that you went through on those 3 days, you're not going to say, oh, you're done your lean training, now come into this room for change management training. That's not what you're going to do. So how are you going to land them? Managing complex changes and change saturation portfolio management. These are both the kind of chapters you would go to, not unless you're probably looking for a solution, and they both are in that zone. Complex changes that are complex, right? There is no way from they span multiple geographies. Time frames are weird. It's cloud-based computing. It's an M&E, stuff like that. So what adaptations you do? And finally, change saturation. What is that animal called change saturation? What do you do with it? I spend the time I spent in this video on the best practice, because like I told you guys, you don't need to be knowing every line, every sentence of that best practice guide. We have distilled that into the methodology, but you are going to be running into projects of different types, and you're going to perhaps need answers to some questions. Look at the best practice guide, it probably has answers. Alternatively, there might be a topic, an area that you suddenly get interested in, and you might be curious on, I would like to know a little bit more about that. Again, that's a great resource. For all else, what you did in the session in terms of your work that you did, what the placement tells you, should cover most of your corner cases. Remember this, the 3 days that you spent going through tick, tick, tick on, hey, I learned all this stuff, the placemat, and then the methodology side, right? Learning how you actually deliver change management. So this is what your your box has. Um, I'm hoping you enjoy yourself as you use the material in this box from time to time. If it's just going to adorn your bookshelf, so be it. But some of it, like the practitioner workbook, the employee survival guide, change that book, some of these are worth touching right now, here and now, for you to start immersing yourself in this world, for you to start executing change management. That's basically all I had. I wish you the very best of luck. This is Krish from Marg, Prosci instructor, wishing you a brilliant, safe health and a wonderful change management journey. Cheers.